Good Tuesday to you, everybody. Incom 831. Welcome to week boom one. How are you doing? Welcome to a new semester. Yeah. Let's get things started off correctly. Mm, much better. My name is Dr. Jeff Gardner, and I am now your sufficiently caffeinated communications instructor. Welcome to the class, Communications 831, Communications in a Digital Age. And welcome to the first week. Welcome to the semester. Okay. Some of you I recognize, going through sort of the role. I've seen you before in other classes. Some of you are new. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. You can read that in your About Instructor over in the modules, but I have a degree in medieval history and the study of religion from the University of Kansas. And I have a degree in communication and media effects from Regent University. I've been teaching here at Regent for 6, 7 years, maybe 8 years. Well, the time flies. I have worked in some 25 countries all over the planet. In the area of organizational communication, I've worked as director of communication, chief of staff communication for organizations large and small. So I hope to bring my knowledge, both my academic background and my real world background, to you during this semester, and I'm excited to do so. Okay. Um, in addition to sort of my academic background, those of you who have had me before know that one of my passions, a couple of them, writing, and in my About Instructor stuff, and that was it like the first. It's underneath modules. I think it's under Welcome, and then About Your Instructor. You can go to my website, jeffgardner.online. Excuse me, and catch up with me there. I write, I dislike this word, but I write about the intersection. Don't like that. Maybe the interaction, maybe that's the word I'm looking for, the interaction of our relationship with God and the natural world and how that shapes our understanding of ourselves. So, outside of the class, if you're interested in some thoughts on that, go to my website and you can read my stuff. In addition to writing, one of my other great passions in life is trekking and mountain climbing. I spend a lot of time out in wilderness, and at least once a year, deep in remote wilderness. And I among my vices, many, I collect coffee cups from the places that I go. So for those of you who had me, you'll know that these will feature significantly, significantly meaning, you're just going to see them. I mean, there's not going to be any course content built around my coffee cups. But, so this one, for example, is from Yellowstone National Park. I've been in the Yellowstone a number of times. I was there for a 5-day solo trek through the backcountry this last summer, 2025. Wow, where did the year go? I have a love-hate relationship with national parks. On the one hand, they have some of the most beautiful land on the continent because, national park. On the other hand, the highly regulated nature of the park puts the spatial experience of the space at odds with what is the essence of the experience of a natural space, and that is they are highly regulated. There are regulations about where you can walk, where you can stop, where you can sleep, how long you can stay, fees that go with all of these things. Okay. I've been in some national parks where you're told literally you can't be in this space, and the space is smaller than a dorm room until this time, and then you have to be out by this time, and you have to pay a fee, and you don't depart from walking on this little space right here. And if you do, there are all kinds of penalties, both financial and punitive. That is, they'll put you in jail. And I just get to the point where I'm like, you know what? If I want to spend time in a space and where in which I'm told when to check in, when to check out. I have to pay for it, and there are severe penalties if I don't. Dude, I'm going to a hotel because that's what that is. Okay. But one of the things that marks the United States is different from the world and how it is we think about ourselves are our national parks. So it's, it's an abusive relationship. I just keep coming back. Anyway, that's a little that's a little bit about me. All right. But I am interested to hear and learn about you as we get this semester underway. So this being the first week, there are a couple things that you need to do to get started. All right. The first thing that you need to do, go into Canvas and get a hold of the syllabus. I recommend that you download it. In fact, I recommend that you download it and that you print it out. Read through it. Get to know the parameters of the class. Get to know the deadlines. Get to know the assignments. What is the point assignment for what? There are 3 ways that you will accrue points in this class. Number 1 is through reading material and answering discussion questions that are built around the material. Number 2 is a semester research paper. Okay, and I'll talk about that here in just a second, and then I'll give you part 1 probably tomorrow. And then number 3 is a final examination. Now, I've had a number of people say to me over the semesters, final exam, come on, this is a graduate class, this is a doctoral class. I haven't had a final exam since nigh on I don't know when, et cetera, et cetera. I get it. I understand. All right. I am asking you to trust me. There's a method in my madness in giving you a final exam. And here it is. One of the challenges that's rapidly unfolding and developing before you as a communication professional, whether you're going to go on to an academic position or somewhere else, because you may not be in the strategic communication program, but you're going to end up, in part or in whole doing strategic communication. I mean, I do. I still do. I'm involved with a number of foreign projects and teach organizational communication in other places. Whether whatever channel you're going to go down, one of the challenges, the threats, if you will, to you as an employed and employable entity within that marketplace is the rise of disruptive technologies like large language models, that is AI, and organizations, including schools and employers, are turning to these cheap technologies to replace people like you and me. All right. So, in addition to learning about how these systems work, how AI works, the best thing that you can do to prepare yourself to be a marketable and desirable commodity when you finish with your degree is to do things that machines don't do, and those things that the machines do that you need to be able to do them too. And you go, okay, yeah, that's obvious, but what does this have to do with a final exam, sir? Well, here's what it has to do with. This is where you're going to have to trust me. All right. The final exam is designed as a skill building exercise to help you, to encourage you to learn how to retain large chunks of information and then produce it on demand. Okay. If you come out of a program with the default of always looking stuff up, you are less valuable to an employer than those who can recall concepts, specific authors, specific arguments on command. That is, when you're asked. There's a process that afflicts us all when we lean on technology to do things that we normally do ourselves, and it's called skills atrophy. The more time we become accustomed, the more we become accustomed to looking things up, and the more time we spend looking things up, the less time we spend working on the skill of being able to store large chunks of information and then recall it on demand. The final exam is designed as an exercise to encourage you to work at that. And yeah, I know, sometimes exercises are not comfortable, but you're going to have to trust me because I will never give you an exercise that's not beneficial. I will tell you this as your instructor, as your professor, and as someone who's worked and continues to work in the communication field. I will never ask you to do something that, one, I wouldn't do myself, and two, it isn't good for you as you develop as a professional. And pushing back against the skills atrophy of not being able to store information in your brain and recall it on demand is good for you. It's good for me, good for all of us. So that's the point of the final exam. Okay. So you have discussions, you'll have a research paper, and you'll have the final exam. So starting out this week, get the syllabus printed out, get it on your screen, go through it, take a look at the week schedule. Okay. Course wraps up, course is done, finished, gone on May 2nd, which is weird. Again, they always put these things on a Saturday. So we're actually wrapped up. I mean, you're not going to be in class on a Saturday. We'll be wrapped up before that. You'll notice too from the schedule and the syllabus that when it comes to when things are due, like our weekly discussion questions that go with our readings. Okay. I always schedule the thing for the end of Monday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's basically Tuesday morning. The reason I do this is I don't want you working on Sunday. All right. If you need some time, you've done some stuff Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you need some more time with it. Spend time in worship and with your family. I mean, as much as you can. And then you have that Monday to get the stuff done. So, the way I structure the week, it starts on Tuesday morning and runs till Monday night rather than Monday through Sunday. Okay, so that's, I do things a little bit differently that way. All right, so get that syllabus. Then number 2, you must take the syllabus participation quiz. That's in the quizzes. It's there in Canvas. And the reason that you have to take it is that for Regent University to maintain its eligibility to accept students who accept federal funds, Regent University each year has to go through a first week exercise that shows that all of the students in a class are actually there. Think of this syllabus quiz as the I'm not a robot CAPTCHA box that you check, but it's just got 4 things to check instead of 1. All right. Make sure that you finish that before, I think it's Sunday night. And because if you don't, and I have to report, who completed it. If you don't, the registrar's office will start to disenroll you from the class, and you don't want that. Okay. So that's the second thing for you to do this week. Okay. And finally, the third, probably coming tomorrow, you have a research paper that you're going to do in this class, and I will post the instruction sheet for the research paper this week, or I should say I will post part of the instruction sheet, because for those who've had me before, you're familiar with this, but for those of you who are new, let me explain how I do research papers. I split them in half, and I have 2 due dates for 2 different parts. You're going to do 1 paper, but we're going to split it into 2 parts. And the reason for that is it's really impossible for me to give you useful feedback as you develop as a communicator, as you develop as a researcher, as you develop as a writer, when I get a big pile of papers at the end of the semester and I've got 3, maybe 4 days to read through. I mean, there's some semesters in which I have, 100 plus students. Everybody's doing 25 pages. I'm a fast reader. I'm not a fast reader that I can read 2,000 pages and make meaningful comments on every one of them in the space of like 3 days. Okay. And I don't know about you, but when I was an undergraduate or a graduate, and I would get papers back at the end of the semester, did I just dig into that paper and go, oh boy, what can I learn and then improve? Now, I was busy. I had jobs to get to. I was looking forward to Christmas break. I was segueing between semesters. I had a big research project. So what we're going to do is we'll split the paper into two parts. You'll do part one, and then you'll get feedback from me. And then you do part two, and you'll get feedback. All right. Now, I'll give you the instruction sheet for part one tomorrow. But if you want to, and you know what the topic is, you get to pick, so long as it connects to the major themes of the course, that is organizational communication. It's up to you what you want to do. You know, typically people they look at, say, the use of certain digital tools to facilitate organizational communication, the impact on emergent technologies on organizational communication, the comparative efficacies of one process to another, stuff like that. All right, we'll talk more about it when I give you the sheet. But if you want to do a project that in all involves live people, which is cool, all right, you must have IRB certification. Now, I'll talk more about that this week. You know, I would just say, I mean, I think we're moving towards this, that when you come into the communication program, whether it's strategic communications or the PhD, everybody gets it's called a Cayuse account. It's set up through the university that registers you and puts you in line for the training that you have to go through to get a certificate that says, I know what the basic rules and, you know, sort of moral boundaries and laws are concerning human subject. You know, like I can't lock people in a box and cut off air and water. I can't experiment on children. I can't release information that's sensitive. I can't release information about anybody that I do research on, you know, these sorts of things. A lot of it's obvious. A lot of it's just understanding the law. And you might be saying, you know, whoa, hold on. I just want to do a paper for a class at university. Why do I have to have all this? Yeah, because it, especially the legal part, you have to know. You know, we don't so much live in a system anymore that's governed under the rule of law. We live in a system that's governed under the rule of lawyers, and the university does not want to have to deal with a lawsuit. Say if a researcher, you know, like you, does a project and he asks people sensitive information and then it gets released and it damages them or it just upsets them, and they hire lawyers saying, you know, they asked me about my, you know, whatever, my past intimate history or what I say about my boss, and then they released it and I got fired or I got embarrassed or I got doxxed or I got banned, and now I'm bringing a lawsuit for damages against you, the researcher. Well, you don't have any money, so the lawyer's not coming for you. The lawyer's coming for Regent. And as a student under researching at and under the authority of Regent, the university's on the hook. So they want to have those legal certifications in place where they can go, oh, hey, not us. This person took the training and was full aware that, you know, if somebody says in a questionnaire that my boss is a big dummy, that you don't release that information with tag to the person and now the person's fired. It's a liability issue. Okay, so if you want to do human subject research, you need to have that. Let me just say this last thing. I strongly encourage you, and if you want to talk about this during my office hours, we can do that. You don't pick a research topic just because. Pick a research topic that informs you about some aspect of either, if you're going to do, you're doing the PhD program, you're going to do a dissertation, or that's part of your capstone, your project that you're doing for your doctorate in strategic communication. Okay, unless you've got all kinds of extra time on your hands, which I don't think you do, since you have to be researching for classes anyway, research stuff that expands your understanding and helps you frame these larger projects that you're going to have to do anyway. All right, so start thinking about something that you would like to research that is related to organizational communication in a digital age. And I'll give you the sheet that'll explain part one this coming week. Okay. I try to keep these things within about 20 minutes, no more than 30 if I can. I don't want to, belabor any points. So, welcome to the class. I'm glad you're here. This week, those three things. Number one, be sure to get your hands on the syllabus. Number two, take the syllabus quiz, and you can have the bloody syllabus open while you take the quiz. It's just to show real person participation, so you're not a robot. Okay. And then number three, start thinking about a research topic that bumps up against organizational communication in digital age that would benefit you as you move towards a dissertation or a project for your DSC. All right. And if you do that, you'll be off to a running start. And oh, yeah, of course, make sure you have the books. Sorry. I know, I've been made aware that some people that this course was, first listed under Professor Goins, who was not able to do it. And so they asked me, and she has different books than I do. Okay. Check the syllabus for the books. Make sure you have them, and you can get them at Amazon for like real cheapo. Okay. I use books that are a little bit old, but whose core principles are still applicable to now. And they being a little bit older makes them cheaper for you. Okay. So I do that on purpose. Make sure you have your books, you have the syllabus, you take the quiz, you start thinking about your research project. Okay, everybody. All right. Good to have you here. I'm thinking about you already. I'll be praying for you. And I will this week see you on Canvas. God bless. Bye bye.